The temple of Radha Gopinath Mandir, which we are going to discuss today in this episode in the series of Spiritual Trip in Vrindavan, is one of the 7 Goswami temples of Vrindavan. It was established by Srila Madhu Pandit Goswami. Madhu Pandit Goswami was a very prominent disciple of Gadadhar Pandit and was an important follower of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Although he was not directly one of the 6 Goswamis, he is counted as one of the important Gauriya Goswamis of Vrindavan. Just on the bank of Bamshibhata, shore of Bamshibhata, Sri Gopinath, who was the original transcendental mellow of the Rasa dance, stands there, and he attracts the attention of the cowherd damsels with the sound of his celebrated flute. May they all confer upon us their benediction. This was mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 1.17. When Madhu Pandit came to Vrindavan, he began searching everywhere for the deity of Lord Gopinath, which was lost since hundreds of years. As I told earlier, that the 3 temples, the Madan Mohan Mandir, the Govindji Mandir and the Gopinath Mandir are the 3 principal deities in Vrindavan. So Madhu Pandit knew that the Gopinath Mandir Gopinath deity was also actually built by Maharaj Vajranabha, who was the great grandson of Lord Krishna, and he was searching the deity. Now after searching for a long time, when he could not find it, he was feeling very great sorrow, and he eventually gave up eating food and would sit in the Bamshi Ghata while always shedding constant stream of tears in separation from the deity. However, Madhu Pandit's ardent desire to serve Lord Gopinath was fulfilled. How? Because that year during the monsoon session there was a great flood in Vrindavan, and the river Yamuna overflooded with her banks. It is said that the great force of the flood water swept away the famous banyan tree that stood at Bamshibhata. After the monsoon rain had abated and the flood waters had receded, Paramananda Bhattacharya, another disciple of Gadadhar Pandit and a close companion and godbrother of Madhu Pandit, collected a branch from the old uprooted banyan tree in order to plant it in the same spot where the original banyan tree had stood. On his arrival at Bamshibhat, Paramananda looked into the massive hole from where the banyan tree had once stood and suddenly noticed what appeared to him a part of a deity lying half buried in the ground. Paramananda immediately went to Madhu Pandit, and they together retrieving the deity from the hole, and suddenly realized that it was none other than Lord Gopinath. Together they carried the deity to the Bhajan Kutir of Madhu Pandit, next to where the Gopinath temple is now standing, and Madhu Pandit then began worship the Lord Gopinath, which continued until his dying day. Much later, sometimes in 1632, a grand temple was constructed next to Madhu Pandit's Bhajan Kutir and worshipped the deity of Lord Gopinath. The temple construction was undertaken by the noted Rajput king named Raja Saganji, one of the Shekhawat royal princes of Rajasthan. As explained earlier, the 3 deities Madan Mohan, Govindji and Gopinath are originally established by King Vajranabha, represent the 3 eternal deities of living entities. Whereas Madan Mohan represents the principle of Sambandha or the soul's relationship with the Lord, Govindji represents Abhideya and regulated activities for reviving the relationship, and Gopinath represents Prayojana or the ultimate goal of life. Therefore, the constitutional duty of Jivatma trapped at the vicious cycle of birth and death is to re-establish a loving relationship with Supreme Lord. The deity of Lord Gopinath, who is also known as Gopijano Vallabha, the attractor of the gopis, is the deity who can fulfill all our desire and attracts us to return back to Godhead. Therefore, Lord Gopinath represents the lotus face of the Lord and the ultimate goal of the devotional service, which is spontaneous attraction of pure love of Godhead. The Gopinath Mandir is the only temple in Vrindavan where we can see the deity of Anagha Manjari on the altar. Ananga Manjari is actually Radharani's younger sister, and she is seen here standing on Lord Gopinath's left side, whereas Radharani is standing on the Lord Gopinath's right side. This is very unusual because Radharani always stands on the left side of Krishna. So there is a story behind this, very interesting story. Actually, soon after the installation of the deity of Radharani at Govindaji Mandir, as usual, a deity of Radharani was installed in all other Gauriya temples in Vrindavan, including Madan Mohan and Gopinathji. When Lord Nityananda's wife, Janva Mataji, visited Vrindavan on her pilgrimage sometimes in 1582, she felt that the deity of Radharani being worshipped on the altar with Lord Gopinath was far too small. Therefore, when she returned to Bengal, she asked one of her disciples to carve a new deity of Radharani, especially for the Gopinath temple. This new deity was then sent to Vrindavan and immediately installed next to Lord Gopinath. When all the devotees in Vrindavan saw the new deity of Radharani, they felt that she looked exactly like Janava Mataji. This happened probably because the devotee who carved the deity, being a disciple of Janva Mataji, probably had modelled her on the beautiful features of Janva Mataji herself. After consulting with all senior Vaishnavas, it was decided that the deity actually is of Anagha Manjari, who is Radharani's younger sister, and in Chaitanya Lila she appeared as Janva Mataji, Lord Nityananda's consort. Because the deity resembling Anagha Manjari had already been installed at the left hand of Lord Gopinath, it was felt that it must have been pre-arranged by Lord Gopinath himself, and therefore it should not be moved. The smaller deity of Radharani was then placed on the Lord Gopinath's right hand side, where she remained even today. All the devotees felt that due to Ananga Manjari's deep desire to serve Lord Gopinath, out of compassion and love for her younger sister, Radharani had elevated her to her own position on the left hand side of Lord Gopinath. There is a story in folklore of the Brajavashi which states when Janva Mataji, having darshana of Lord Gopinath later, suddenly pulled her inside the altar and closed the curtain. When the curtains were reopened, Janva Mataji had disappeared and is said to have entered into the deity of Lord Gopinath. However, this account is fictitious and it has not been mentioned in any Vaishnava literature. The Bhakti Ratnakara says that when Janva Mataji arrived in Vrindavan, the leaders of Vaishnava community such as Jiva Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Loknath Goswami, Bhugarbha Goswami and Madhu Pandit Goswami all came to offer her their respectful greetings. Taking these leaders with her, she visited the principal temples of Vrindavan, namely Madan Mohan, Govindaji and Gopinathji. After visiting Vrindavan, Janva Mataji went to Radha Kundo, where she met Raghunatha Das Goswami. In the year 1670, the deity of Lord Gopinath was actually moved to Rajasthan, along with other important Gauriya Goswami deities, due to the attack on Vrindavan by the tyrant Aurangzeb, whose soldiers desecrated Vrindavan's temple, including Govindaji, Gopinathji and Madan Mohan. At first, the deities of Gauriya Goswamis were taken to Radha Kundo and hidden inside the sacred lake. They were then taken to Kamyavan in Rajasthan, where they remained for 35 years. Then in 1705, these deities were moved to Amber, the capital of the Rajput kings, and then later in 1727 to the newly built city of Jaipur. Now, during the later days of the tyrant Aurangzeb's reign, when the Mughal Empire was in rapid decline, a new temple of Lord Gopinath was constructed in Vrindavan next to the original one, and the Pratibhu Vigraha of Lord Gopinath was installed there in 1698. This Pratibhu Vigraha is considered to be non-different from the original deity of Lord Gopinath and possesses the same spiritual potency. That means that this replica deity, referred as Pratibhu Murti, had been given some kind of power of attorney to act on behalf of the original deity. Therefore, this Pratibhu Murti is considered non-different and having the same spiritual power in original deity. On the altar of the temple, one can see Lord Gopinath along with Ananga Manjari on Krishna's left side and Radharani on the right. This is the same arrangement occurs all Gopinath temples in Braja, including the two Gopinath temple in Radha Kundo, as well as in the Kambyavana in Jaipur, where the original deity of Lord Gopinath is still being worshipped.